I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and today I am going to be doing a component bracelet design that I'm calling the Passion Flower. You can do these as components and use them in necklaces or do them as an earring, or I'm going to be showing you how to link them together to make a bracelet. The cool thing about the Passion Flower is it uses a brace or a bead that I haven't used yet before. So the beads that we'll be using, if you need any of them, there's a little information button here at the top. That's kind of one of the new things to YouTube. If you kind of take your mouse and go over the actual video, a little eye should pop up in the right-hand corner. If you press that information, it'll give you links to all of the different materials that we have here in the video. Also, in the description of the video, which has the date the video was produced and some information about it, there you can do a little show more button or hit the down arrow, and it'll give you links to all the different products that you can purchase from me online, or go to your local Potomac Bead Company store and check those out as well. So the bead that we're going to be using, kind of our focal bead, is this green silk Allie bead. So if you haven't used the Allie bead, like I said, this is my first time using the Allie. It is a 3-hold kind of iris shape bead. So it has that almost marquee or iris shape to it, and it's 3-hold. We're going to be using it on the side so that you actually see the ridge of it, but we're going to be utilizing all 3 of the holes. Each of the passion flowers that we'll be doing, you use 6 of the Allie beads. Depending on how big your wrist is, you may need 6 to 7 of those passion flowers. So you're going to use 6 times however many you're doing for the project. Like I said, if you're doing just a pair of earrings, you're going to need 12 of them because you're going to need 2 groupings of 6. So just times 6 by whatever you want your project to be. For the darker green here, we are going to be using the 2-hold lentil, which is a checkmate, and in the turquoise color here. So we have the nice, just opaque turquoise. And I kind of picked out like Florida springish colors. It was just the first day of spring a couple days ago, so we decided to make this a little springy and bright for you guys. Same thing with the 2-hold lentils. However many of the passion flower components you're doing, you will need 6 per that. Or I'm sorry, 7 rather, 6 for the outer edge and then 1 for the center. Although you really can put anything in the center, and we'll go through that as we get further into the bracelet design. You're also going to need some 11-0 and some 15-0 seed beads. I've chosen the Miyuki brand for both the 11 and the 15-0. The 15-0, I have the galvanized yellow gold color of the 15-0 that we're going to be using as an accent. And then the 11-0 I have in the Duracoat opaque watermelon color, and that kind of brings in that tropical, fun, bright design that you can use to make this bracelet. So again, components, earrings, bracelets, kind of up to you. And the calculation of how many you need is going to depend on what you are creating. Like I said, if you are doing a bracelet, you're going to need probably 6 to 7 groupings of those groupings of 6 or 7 beads, depending on whether or not you're talking about the Allie or the 2-hold lentil. In addition to that, I'm going to be stringing the whole thing on wildfire beading thread in 0.006, and I am using the white color with my nice light beads. I also have a size 12 English beading needle that we'll be working with as we string along. It's a 1-needle project. We'll do components, and then I'll also show you how to go back and add on a clasp. Since I am doing the clasp version of it, I'm doing it as a bracelet. So I have the crystal amber cup button here that I'll be using and attaching to the end of the design. In addition to the thread and needle, I do have sitting handy my Thread Zap 2, or you can do a Thread Zap Ultra cord cutter. I kind of have them all sitting around. Anything that burns the end of the thread is helpful because you want to get your thread off the spool. You want to burn. Also, these are kind of each independent unit, so you will have spaces where you need to tie off and burn the thread down. So have a thread burner nice and handy for you to use. In addition, because I use a thread burner, I like to have a pliers handy to flatten out the end of the thread to make it easier to thread inside my size 12 needle. To get started, I'm going to show you how to do one of the components, and then we're going to add on to that component. Each component is going to use about a little bit less than 3 feet of beading thread, but I'm going to go ahead and pull about 5 feet of thread. That way I have enough to do a couple components without having to add thread to my needle. Go ahead and pour out little piles of all of your materials so we can get ready to start doing this passion flower video. So to get started, we're going to start out with the center of our design here. The center of the design is going to start by stringing on 6 of our Allie beads. So I'm going to string on 6 of my Allie beads onto my thread and needle. And when I'm stringing those Allie beads and kind of working with them, I'm going to pick them up just by the same hole. So basically one of the end holes. You don't want to go through the middle. You also want to make sure anytime you're using a multi-hole bead that all of the holes are open and basically pressed through when they do the design, because you don't want to get to the end and then realize that you can't get through one of the last holes. So check that out too. And that's for any single bead that has multi-holes. You want to do that just because it happens that some of the beads and the holes get blocked as they're being manufactured. So I have my 6 beads on my thread. And what I'm going to do is just tie a knot with the end of the thread. I'm leaving about 1 inch of thread, and that is just going to be for me to grab onto and to tie off the very end of the project when I get done the end of this component. So I have just a knot that I did there, and I'm having all those Allie beads just kind of fall in a center circle however they fall. From here, take your thread and needle, and you're going to sew through the first hole of the Allie bead next to the knot. That's going to pull the knot a little bit further into one of the beads. From there, I'm going to step up from that first hole of the Allie to the second hole of the Allie, the same bead that my thread is coming out of, and you're going to see a tiny bit of thread right there on the side. As you create the design, you won't see it then at all. As we go through and catch the second hole of all the Allie beads, we're going to add a 15-0, a lentil, and a 15-0 onto the needle. Take that and string through the next Allie bead in line. Continue this 6 times, which are going to add 6 of the lentils in, meaning you'll have a lentil between each of your Allie beads. And just make sure as you're going along that you are in fact going through the second hole, because you don't want to, by accident, sew through the third hole. When Allie bead holes, because there are 3, are fairly close together, so that's why I wanted to say to make sure that you're going through the middle hole. So I'm continuing to sew in my lentils, 1 between each Allie with a 15-0 between each. As I sew in this last one then, I'm going to go through the last of the Allie beads and bring my thread out right after the Allie. Give a nice tight pull to make sure that you don't have any extra thread that might be exposed in that rotation there. When I'm here, I'm back at that same starter Allie that I took the thread from the first hole to the second hole. I want to take the hole now from the second to the third hole, going up that same Allie bead, which will put a little bit of thread on the opposite side of that Allie bead, going from the second to the third hole. From here, we're going to add in some of our color and some of our design that will go back and kind of make our little petals for our flowers. When you're coming out of the Allie bead, you're going to pick up a 15-0 and then an 11-0. Then string through the second hole of the lentil. Coming out the lentil, reverse that, 11 and then 15, and through the Allie. You're going to do this the whole way around the project. So you can see whenever you're coming out of the Allie bead, the 15-0 goes on first. Whenever you're coming out of the lentil bead, the 11-0 goes on first, because we want the 11-0 to be on the sides of the actual lentil. I'm stringing the whole way along now. I'm going to do this the whole way along the project, adding in those seed beads between. You're probably going to have more thread on your needle than I do, so you're going to have a little bit more to pull through. If you're somebody that doesn't like a lot of thread on your needle, I cut about 3 feet on mine. The reason I usually have a shorter thread than you're working with is because it makes it easier for me to film. But generally I have about 5 feet of thread. Coming around here. And make sure that your end thread doesn't get too mixed up into the project that it's going to be hard to get out. You can kind of move that to the side. Going around then in the circle, I'm going to finish up adding these 15s and 11s. We've got 2 more to add in. And then this first outer row will be complete. As you come back to the first Callie, you're going to sew through the Callie to finish up the seed beads. Give a little pull and kind of make sure that no extra thread is exposed along the sides. And then also sew through the 15-0 and the 11-0 that you first put on the project. Untwist my thread end there. So I'm coming out one of the 11-0s that is next to the lentils. From here, we're going to start adding beads in a series of 4. So when you're coming out of your 11-0 seed bead, that watermelon color, I'm going to pick up 4 11-0s and sew through the watermelon on the other side of the lentil as well as the 15-0. That's going to put 4 beads right along the side, which makes it appear like you have 3 on each side of the lentil. Coming out the 15-0, we're going to repeat 4, but this time you're going to do 4 15-0s. So basically over the top of the Callie and through the 15 and the 11. As we spin around then, over top of the lentil, you get 4 of your 11s and sew through the 11 and the 15. So this continues the whole way along the project, that you're basically connecting the 15-0 seed beads with 4 15s, and then you're connecting the 11-0 seed beads with 4 11-0s. So I'm going to continue going the whole way around the project, adding in 4 11s and then my 4 15s right above the Callies and the 2 whole lentils. So I'm putting in as we put in the 4 last 15-0 seed beads, you're going to take your needle and thread, and we're going to get ready to add the points to our flower here. To add in the points, we are going to come up through basically one side of the lentil and then one side of the Callie bead. So we ended up putting on 4 more of the 11-0s and 4 more of the 15-0s. We're going to go up those 2, including the one that was already there, which is going to be up through 3 beads. When we get to the top of that 3rd bead, I'm going to put on another 11-0 and come down the 3 beads on the other side. If at the same time you go through the 15-0, don't worry about that. We're going to go through it anyway. That gets a nice peak or a nice point on that grouping of 11-0s. Above the 15-0s then, we're doing the same thing, but obviously with the 15-0s. So you're going to go up through 3 15-0 seed beads here, add another 15 onto the needle, and then down through the 3 15s and out. Give a little tug then, and that pulls that 15 into that nice peak. So you can see they go from being rounded to very much pointed and peaked. Then go ahead and go up the next set of 11-0s on the side of the lentil. Come out through the 3, add an 11, and go down through the 3. If you wanted to, you could also change up the color and add a different color at the point. That would be kind of pretty. And then I'm going to continue on and have you guys continue on going up through the 15 O's and the 11 O's to add in your points to your star flower. So go ahead in the whole way around, adding in an 11 or a 15 depending on what size you're currently working with, and creating that nice point to each of the tops of the flower petals. So I'm going ahead here and I'm adding in my last of my 15 O's into my peaks, and I have all my 11s done. And then my star flower, basically, the outer edges of it and my little petals are completed. To then complete the inside of the star flower, I'm going to take my thread and needle and go through the side, basically, of the Allie bead, just like we were doing to step up the Allie bead. Now, basically, we're going to step down the Allie bead. So I'm going to go through the Allie bead, going from the top hole then to the middle hole. And if it wants to go through seed beads and to the outer edge, you can always feed it back through those seed beads. That's fine. You can also, if you want to, go to the next Allie bead, so that way you don't have as much thread showing. It's kind of up to you. Ooh. Caught that 15-0 there, so I'm going to take my thread back out of it. And I'm in the middle hole now, and I'm going to sew down through the bottom hole. So naturally, this is going to have a little bit of a wave to it. It really presents the petals in the center to stick up as you continue and add the components together. When you have just one component, it's going to naturally sit that it's kind of bowed towards one of the sides, and that it has a top and a bottom. On the top, between each of the Allies, you end up seeing a little bit of thread. However, if you put seed beads between it first, then it spaces it out really far. So what I want to do is put 11 seed beads right now in between that first hole of the Allie. So I'm going to work my way around, adding in an 11 between each of the first holes of the Allie. These 11 O's, which is what I want to happen, will sit kind of on top of the Allie bead, not recessed in, because you already have a piece of thread underneath there from your original row. So I want them to sit and kind of make the flower 3D. So I'm just adding in 6 of my 11s, bringing that nice pop of color to the center. And spinning it around. Once you have the final one on, you're going to come out through the last Allie here. Push that 11 out of the way. And you're going to go through that first 11 seed bead that your thread came out of. So I have all of my 11 O's on now, and they're sitting, like I said again, a little bit towards the top. I'm going to take my tail right now, if it is on the top side, and put it through the middle of the project, so it is now towards the bottom. And kind of grab it there, because I want to tie it off at the very back of the project. When you're coming out the 11 here at the top, here's where I said you have the opportunity to really kind of add what you want to the actual passion flower. If you want to, you could add a crystal in the middle. I wanted to kind of stick with that lentil to bring that into focus. So my thread is coming out one of the 11 seed beads, the first one that I put on, and I'm going to go through one hole of the lentil. Coming out the top then, grab 3 15 seed beads and go down the opposite hole of the lentil. This is going to put those 3 seed beads right on the top of that lentil. And I'm going to give a nice tight pull to get rid of any extra thread that may be exposed. From here, I'm going to take the thread and kind of move it out of the way so you can see it for now. The thread is coming out this 11-0 seed bead here. I'm going to go to the 11-0 on the opposite side. So I'm going to basically skip 2 11s and go through the 11-0 on the opposite side, with the thread being on the same side that my thread is coming out of through that first 11-0. The thread then I'm going to take back up through the lentil. So when you see it kind of on the side here, you see that the thread goes through a loop basically of that 11. Give a nice tight pull. If you want to, you can even make it look fuller by adding 3 more seed beads. I want to keep the color nice and dominant. So I'm going to sew through those 3 seed beads that are already there. Sew through the lentil. And then also through the 11-0 that the thread was coming out of, but I'm going in now on the opposite side. So it was coming out on the right. I went into the right-hand side of the bead across from it, out the left, up through the lentil, and now I'm going into the left side of that same 11. Giving a nice tight pull will basically hide any extra thread that you have. There I have my first of my passion flower done. And I'm going to tie off my thread. To tie off my thread, I need to get my thread and needle to the back of the project. So I'm going to take my thread and needle and literally just poke it through that 11-0, bringing it towards the back. When you do that, the thread should be pretty much in the same spot as your starter thread, and you are going to tie off the 2 threads. You can do this just with a square knot. If you want to, you can also do a little dab of super glue glue. That's up to you. Once I have a nice square knot, I'm going to go into this star flower, or this passion flower rather, and burn down those thread ends. So I'm going to burn them down about 1/4 of an inch. And I need to change my battery, I can tell. And burn down those thread ends one at a time. Once you have those thread ends burned down, your first of your passion flower little component is finished. So if you want to, you could put this on a ear wire and just have an earring that you're working with and that you're creating. You can kind of group them together in necklaces by connecting them in corners. I'm going to continue by showing you how to then take them and basically add them together as components to continue to design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another star or another passion flower all the way to the point that I'm getting ready to add my little peaks above the petals. From there, I'll get ready then to add them together and show you how we do so. So I'm at the point here where I created another one of my passion flowers, and I'm creating it and I'm getting ready to add the seed beads for the peaks of the flowers here, that little point to the petal. What I'm going to do is, here is how I'm going to add my components together. So when I'm coming out my first point or my first peak, instead of adding a new 11-0 seed bead, I'm going to go through the 11-0 of one of the previous flowers that I created. Then coming down the project, go through my 11-0s and come up my 15-0s. And when I'm coming out the 15-0, instead of adding another 15-0, I'm going to pick up the 15-0 that's already on the completed passion flower. And so down through the 15-0s, and give a little tug. Next, go up through the next grouping of my 11-0s. And again, instead of adding a new 11-0, catch on to the 11-0 of the flower that you are adding to, and down. From here then I'll continue on just as I did in the previous clips, showing you how to go through the star flower and add, go through that passion flower and add the little peaks to it. So I'm going to continue to add on after I have kind of that linking X. Because I already made some and have some connected, I wanted to show you that you can put them in a nice kind of V. Let's do it this way to show you that if you want to, you can connect them on an angle to make a nice necklace and centerpiece necklace as well. If you want to connect them on the bracelet, you're going to keep going. So if you happen to already have some of them finished, you kind of sat down and you get to a point where you finish one off and you forget to add it to another one. When you add to one side, you're just going to continue then as if you are adding to an existing one. So I'll go down here on the sides and add in here to some of the two sides here. And then when I get to the side here, I will add on and connect so that way I have 6 of my passion flowers all done and connected and kind of ready to go for my bracelet design. So whenever you end up being done with the number of components that you need for your wrist, or if you wanted to do it as a necklace, I have 6 components on. And you can see if I do one more component, it's going to make it way too big, but I need to do my clasp. So that's good because I have room to add the clasp and to finish the clasp up. So I have some thread left on one of my needles, and I'm going to show you how I get ready to do my loop and add my button for my clasp closure. For my button, I'm also going to add to the center of it one of my lentils. So go ahead and grab that out for each side. All right, so I have my thread kind of in hand, and what I'm going to do is sew through that last 15-0 that is in the center on the opposite side, basically the very end of the bracelet. Sew through and leave yourself about a 1-inch tail. Coming out of it, I want you to pick up a 15 and 1 11-0, a 15, and then about 28 of your 11-0s. We're going to do the loop side first. So this is a good opportunity to kind of clean up your bead board or your bead mat. And you can use 15-0s if you'd rather instead of the 11-0s. That's kind of up to you what beads you want to use for the project. Once you have 28 or so on your thread and needle, you're going to add 1 15-0 onto the loop. I'm then going to take the thread and needle back through the first 11-0 that I put on to my thread. And that's going to bring it back into a loop and create a little nice kind of Xing effect. I'm still holding that tail, and I'm going to pick up another 15-0. So back through the original 15-0 so that the thread is going into the right-hand side and then out the left. And that makes a nice loop there. Go ahead and reinforce then the entire thing, going through all the seed beads that you added and up through that whole entire loop. Once you reinforce and go through the loop, if you want to, you can do it a third time. I'm going to tie off my thread ends here. My original thread loop that I have here, I am going to tie a knot, and then I'm going to feed some of the thread that I have remaining on my needle back through the project a little bit and tie off along the project just to reinforce one more time. So coming down the project then, I'm going to come out the 15-0, sew through the 11-0 that's there, and then through the 15. Give a nice yank, make sure that all your thread is not showing, that all the thread that you can see is all nice and hidden. From there, like I said, I'll take that original end, tie a knot. I don't want it to be huge though, because I don't want to see it on the side of my project. So I'm just going to do 2 knots, let that one rest there so you don't see it next to the clasp. And then with the other one, I'll take it and kind of feed back through the project a little bit and tie it off in the project. On the opposite end then, we'll get ready to add our cup button. So go ahead and kind of do some sewer's knots, get rid of this thread, pulling it down into the project so you don't see any of it, and then burn those thread ends off. You may need to get a little bit more thread on your needle, or if you have about 10 to 12 inches of thread, you'll be good for adding your button on the opposite side. On the opposite end here then, I'm coming out of my 15-0 just like I did on the other side. I'm going to add a 15-0 and 3 of my 11-0s. And then I'm going to sew up through the back of the cup button. When I'm coming out the back of the cup button, I'm going to add on one of my lentils, again, just to give a little bit of color. And on top of the lentil then, I want to add a 15, an 11, and a 15, and come down through the cup button and the lentil going through the second hole. You can see that just kind of adds that same pop of color right along the top. When you're coming out the back of the cup button, go ahead and add 3 more 11-0 seed beads, 1 15, and then just like we did on the other side, sew through the 15 that's already there. Go ahead then, just like the other side again, reinforce the clasp, tie off, and then get ready to burn off the ends of your thread. After you're done tying off all your thread ends and burning them down, your passion flower bracelet is completed and done. You can see that everything kind of matches up really well and follows along with that whole Floridian fun springtime color. So again, I would really love to see this if you guys get an opportunity in a necklace form. I think it would be really pretty. If I have time, I'm going to make a necklace in that V shape as well to match, to have a nice set. You could also again do these as earrings, and you can really kind of add them and connect them in different points. You could also connect them just on a point so that they sit to the side, and there you'll use less of your materials actually, because it'll put them a little bit wider apart. Again, if you need any of the materials to do this passion flower bracelet, you can go on the video to that little eye at the top, or you can go further down the video to the description about what the video is about, the date that it was made, and hit that show more button to get the callies and the 2-hole lentils and all the fun beads here at PotomacBeads.com. If you like the video and you want to stay connected to us, you can also subscribe to this YouTube channel. There you'll get regular updates on new beads like the Callie beads, what's going on in the beading world, as well as these fun tutorials that I create for you guys as well. Also, feel free to shop with me at PotomacBeads.com. Stay connected with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also, if you want to, you can join our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making, which is a great kind of forum and community for people that love to make jewelry, love to bead, and really kind of have an eye for design. They'll help you out, answer questions if you're posting them, or you could even help out other fellow beaders as well. As always, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and enjoy making this design of the passion flower bracelet.